Thank you, Chair. We are the Youth Delegates from Ireland, representing 1.2 million young people, all of whom hope to inherit a stronger, safer and more sustainable world. There is no doubt that this is a trying time for the international community. Conflicts, climate change, the large-scale movement of refugees and political unrest threaten the human rights of all throughout the world, and young people are particularly vulnerable. The 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as the Nelson Mandela Peace Summit and the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Peace Agreement in Ireland, gives us the chance to pause and reflect on how we can ensure that the human rights of all are met going into the future. The Sustainable Development Goals offer us a roadmap to be the generations for change that build a better world. Young people are the experts on our own needs and lived realities. Governments must invest in initiatives that support young people in exercising their agency, leadership and voice. Involving youth is not a photo op. It requires a commitment to engaging young people at all levels of policy development, decision-making and implementation. The threat of climate change particularly impacts young people. Across the world, the frequency and intensity of severe weather events continues to increase. We cannot allow this to become our new normal. Millions of young people across the globe are doing our very best to mitigate against climate change, to create a world that is safe for all of us. But we cannot do it alone. We need all generations to do their very best as well. Girls and women account for over half of the population, and yet our priorities, rights and aspirations remain on the sidelines. Patriarchal practices and norms continue to discriminate against us, jeopardising our safety and making it more difficult for us to access quality healthcare and education, decent work and equal pay. We are proud of Ireland's role as Chair of the Commission on the Status of Women. Young people in Ireland believe that gender equality is not a gift to be granted, but rather a fundamental right. Achieving full gender equality by 2030 requires comprehensive legislative and societal changes that recognise the specific needs of girls and young women. If we are truly committed to leaving no one behind, we must engage with young people to work together as a global community to be the generations for change that achieve the SDGs.
We draw particular attention to Article 25.1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantees an adequate standard of living, health, housing and social security for all. For many of the world's people, these rights have yet to be fully realised. Unacceptable numbers of young people are not in education, employment or training. This is not by choice. Governments must improve their efforts on planning, supporting and delivering on targeted education and labour activation programmes. It is unacceptable that a young person's education should be dictated by the circumstances of their birth. It should instead be reflective of their boundless potential and cater to their unique needs. Today, in developed countries, there are children and young people who suffer through poverty, inadequate accommodation and homelessness. The life chances of these young people are being lost. The ultimate objective of governments should be to provide the necessary infrastructure and services to ensure well-being of young people and empower them to break the cycle of poverty and to become agents of change in their lives and the lives of their families and communities. Rural communities are losing generation after generation of young people who have no choice but to leave for education, employment and social services. Society needs increased action on regional and rural development in order to build more inclusive, resilient and sustainable communities for all. It is more important now than ever that governments use the fruits of their prosperity toward the betterment of humanity and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Part of this requires an extensive education agenda to enhance knowledge and engagement by all members of society in development education and human rights education. In today's globalized world, we must live in each other's shelter and not in each other's shadow. With the publication of the United Nations Youth Strategy, Youth 2030, we call on UN member states and civil society to take radical steps to deliver on this, working with and for young people to be the generation for change. Young people make up 25% of the world's population today, but they make up 100% of the future. It is with this in mind that we call for a world in which the human rights of every young person are realised, that ensures every young person is empowered to achieve their full potential, and that recognises young people's agency, resilience, and their boundless ability to be positive agents for change. Gurv Margaret, thank you.